How to Adventure More. Yes, I know, a slightly clunky title for a film, but hopefully you know what I mean. I'm going to talk to some riders who could be labelled adventurous for their stories, some advice, and most importantly, some inspiration. This isn't your average how-to video from us at GMBN, but this isn't your average week. This is Adventure Week. From mountain bike to gravel to road, these riders all share one thing: the ability to commit to something that pushes what you think is possible on a bike.
Hey there, I'm Hans Rey. I am 53 years old. I've been a professional mountain biker pretty much all my life for over 32 years. And my background is trials riding, but really in the last 20 years I've been doing a lot of adventure trips all over the world to very remote places. I've been to over 70 countries.
My name's Beaumont. I'm 36 years old and I'm mainly a roadie, but by that I mean ultra endurance expedition riding as opposed to in the peloton. But I kind of love all things on two wheels, which means a bit of mountain biking, as long as there's not too much gravity, and a bit of vintage. Love the old-fashioned stuff, penny farthings and the rest. And I've been riding a bike my entire life, maybe since I was 4.
Neil Donoghue, 38. I am an ex-downhill racer, enduro racer, but someone who now just likes to try a bit of everything. Been riding for 23 years.
My name is Blake Sampson. I'm a GMBN presenter. I am 34 years young. I am a mixture of freeride, dirt jump, and enduro. That's my type of riding. I've been riding for 16 years professionally, but I've been riding since I was 5.
Simon Richardson, 36. Jack of all trades, master of none. Whoa, 28 years.
The biggest ride I've ever done is it's about 220k, I think, on a road bike. On a mountain bike, 110 kilometers in a day. I did the Dolomiti Superbike with Richardson, and that was a big day out. It's a race as well, so you're trying to go as quick as you can. And I think it was 3,300 meters of climbing, so definitely by my standards, that was a big ride.
The longest single day ride I've ever done was actually accompanying Mark Beaumont on the first day of his around the world record-breaking ride. So we did 386 kilometers. Embarrassingly enough, that was all I could do before I completely cracked. Mark then carried on that day, and then obviously the next day and the next day for another 78 days. So my biggest ride was a 78th of his biggest ride.
My biggest and hardest adventure, I think, was in 2016 when I climbed Mount Kenya and Mount Kilimanjaro back to back. It was something that had never been done in that order, and to me it was really the Mount Everest of mountain biking, because it was I know there's higher mountains that people have tackled, but usually you know, they just carry their bikes once they get over 6,000 meters. And Kilimanjaro, you can pretty much, you know, ride the whole way down. Obviously, you have to carry your bike, but that was definitely a challenging trip.
My most adventurous ride on the road would definitely be pedaling around the planet. Does that count? Done that twice, once unsupported, once fully supported. Totally different ballgame each time, but that's pretty massive. 18,000 miles against the clock, racing 240 miles a day. But mountain biking, I sort of flippantly thought I'd do a coast to coast a couple of years back. Thought, it'll take about 12 hours, no bother. Massively underestimated it, and it took the best part of an entire 24-hour day to get across, doing single track the entire way. And I was a broken man.
The biggest ride I have ever done has to be, I have no idea. I've ridden around the Isle of Wight, that's pretty far. Patagonia is pretty far. Yeah. I haven't ridden to Patagonia. I rode in Patagonia for 2 days with Neil Donoghue. So I would say the Isle of Wight's my longest. It's probably like 100 miles or something.
Have I ever taken on a ride which I underestimated? Definitely. But I do love the planning. You know, as much as I love getting out there and pushing myself, I do love poring over a map, getting the highlighter pen out, you know, just figuring out what's in store. The training, you know, I think part of taking on difficult stuff is knowing what you're in for. But of course, if you try difficult stuff, you're going to end up in some difficult places. But I've never turned back. I've never not completed a ride, either road or mountain bike.
I think In recent times, all of the sort of challenges that I have either been set or I've set myself, I've managed to complete. But there have been many, many rides in the past where I've bailed out halfway, but generally it's been a training session and I've decided that I've not fancied it. But I can't think of like a proper epic ride that I've not managed to do. No, not yet anyway. There will be something, I'm sure.
I haven't actually planned a route super hard for me to not complete. I've got to the point where I was like, this is getting really hard and I don't want to be here anymore, but I've never overdone it. Maybe I should one day, see what it's like and potentially get lost and make it a big challenge.
Actually, that did happen a few times, and one particular time was Mount Mayon in the Philippines, one of the deadliest volcanoes in the world. And Brian Lopes and myself tried to tackle it, and we got about 1.5 days up. We still had about a 10-hour climb to the summit, but the terrain got so steep and vertical and unrideable, and there was no shelter, no place to get water. And we even figured that we would have probably had to walk 90% on the way down because it was really much steeper than we thought it would be. So we ended up knocking it on the head.
There's definitely been a couple of times where I've had to abandon rides, and it's probably more actually in the old days when we used to train on a road bike in winter, when I would just set out for big days and take a good amount of kit with me, food and stuff. But I remember one situation where there was a weather warning for snow, and it was probably, February or March. And I thought, I'm gonna prove that I'm a hard man. I'm gonna go out anyway and go for a big road ride. And I got snowed on and I got really cold, and I had to ring up my dad and get him to come and pick me up. So there's definitely been a few times where I've had to make that call of shame for a friend or a parent to come and pick me up in the middle of nowhere.
Have I ever felt like I've been in trouble on a big adventure? No, I haven't, to a point. No, don't think I have.
I don't think I've ever been stranded in a dangerous situation before, thank goodness, so touch wood. A lot of times where I've had to call in support because I've had a terminal mechanical problem. But again, it was when out training, so I wasn't that far from home. I did once actually have to call my dad back when I was about 15 years old, and I was out on my road bike in winter, and my hands and feet got so cold that I basically couldn't ride anymore. And so I phoned him up to see whether he could come pick me up, and he said no. So I had to ride home regardless with the coldest hands and feet I've ever had. So I'd like to think that perhaps now, I should thank my dad for this. It's made me the person that I am today, but it still hurts, Dad.
And I suppose actually this year when I got hurt in South America, so I fell off in the Andes Pacifico, landed on my leg, and that night I got rushed off for emergency surgery, having to spend 7 days in hospital. The other side of the world was actually not as bad as it sounds. Got some good friends, or made some good friends in South America that really helped me out, but that was a situation where I found myself really needing the help of other people, and I got it. It's good to show that the mountain bike world can be a super nice, super friendly place where when you need help, hopefully you'll get it.
Well, some of the things that happened over the years, in Mount Kilimanjaro, we almost got robbed, and we did some smart moves at the last minute to prevent some locals from trying to steal our camera gears and bikes. In Egypt, we had an actual police escort, which we tried to ditch because we were on an adventure and we didn't want to be monitored the whole time. In China, we had the secret police follow us. In Ecuador and also once in Nepal, I got altitude sick, and that knocked me off my feet for 24 hours, but then I did recover. And in Copper Canyon, we had to avoid the drug cartels. And in Botswana, we were actually stalked by a leopard. So you never know what's going to happen, and you don't want to be in those situations. So there was nothing good about those moments.
On some of the big ultra endurance rides, keep in mind that these adventures have taken me to well over 100 countries around the world. It's the big strips of the planet where there's just very little supplies. Your food rationing, water rationing, especially when it's super hot, deserts. Going through the Baluchi Desert on the Helmand border province, that's sort of Afghan-Pakistan country. The Atacama Desert, you probably saw the trouble the Top Gear got into riding across there. Equally tough on a bike, more so I would recommend. The Outback, I got battered going across there, 3,000 miles into a headwind. So these are chunks of road where occasionally I've got into a real pickle and needed to ask other passerbys for water, for supplies. Camped out in the middle of the Outback off the Great Bight. I woke up with the tent blown down in my face, right on the cliff's edge, and I thought, well, I've got to sort this out. Got out, and the entire thing blew away. So I, imagine middle of the night running across the middle of nowhere to track this thing down, and ended up just sleeping on my tent for the rest of the night. Otherwise, it would blow over the cliffs, and I was still 400 miles from the next town. So you kind of got to look after your kit when you're in the middle of nowhere.
What advice would I give you if you ever want to go on an adventure? Just be open-minded and be ready for everything. Remember, an adventure doesn't really start until a journey goes wrong or something unplanned happens. So, be prepared and be adventurous, but be careful and have fun.
The advice I'd give someone that hasn't done bike packing or gone for a big major expedition with their bike, the best thing is plan a route carefully, see where you're going, make sure you know what's going on in that local area, and don't get yourself in trouble. Don't go somewhere where you feel you're gonna, you're second thinking about everything. Don't go there. If you're feeling like it's something bad, don't do it.
My advice would be to use the information that's available, with the internet, with things like our channel. There's plenty of advice for people that do want to get out there and maybe try something new, like bike packing somewhere. I feel like I am inspired to push the boundaries a bit more. With the bike packing I've done, it's been fairly tame. So far, me and Blake have kept the UK, and I've really actually liked that. We've not picked routes that have been too big. Actually, the first time we went bike packing, we only rode 25 miles for 2 days. So that was pretty mellow by most people's standards. And actually, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't crazy. It was much more relaxed. It was much more fun. It doesn't have to be gnarly, especially if it's your first time bike packing. So that's what I would say, is just get out there, try it in summertime where hopefully the weather's gonna be nice. It gives you a bit of a taste of what you can do, and then maybe start thinking about going a bit further, making it a bit more challenging.
Most people, I think, get sort of stuck in the distances they're comfortable riding, especially roadies. Of course, mountain bikers tend not to describe themselves by distances. It's more, describing the type of trails they were on. But what I mean is, when you're pushing bigger distances, be it bike packing or ultra endurance, it's not that much harder physically. You normally just have to slow down and just think your way through it. It's amazing, if you've only ever ridden a century before, a double century is not that much harder. I'm not being flippant, but you just have to believe you can do it and just fuel yourself effectively and just break it down and all the obvious things around targets. But so many times I've been freaked out by the scale of what lies ahead. I think if I was to talk about my own comfort zone going off-road, it would definitely be the technical side of riding. So, gravity, terrain, drops, gaps, stuff and I need to now go on that same journey in terms of my XC riding as I have as a roadie. But there's a lot about just surrounding yourself by people who are better than you, following them, following their lines, just sort of assimilating what they do. And I've had some great buddies over the years who have just taken me into their world, and I've just sort of built confidence through them.
I guess when you're thinking about pushing your boundaries, there's two things. There's gently pushing your boundaries in a safe way that's exciting and helps you improve or broaden your horizons. And then there's actually undertaking things that you're not capable of doing, so you actually get in danger. So I definitely say that probably baby steps. You plan things that excite you, that motivate you, and that will push you out your comfort zone. But if, for example, you've never ridden more than, I'm going to sound like a roadie here, but 100 miles, then suddenly planning a 400-mile ride and you're not going to take any kind of camping equipment, then that might be a recipe for disaster. But I definitely would say don't be afraid of getting out there and going camping, going bike packing. It's a lot easier than you'd think it might be. So if you prepare properly, you got half decent equipment and you got enough of it, then you'll have an amazing time.
So there you go, there's some stories and some advice from some pretty cool people and us at GMBN and GCN. Hopefully those will help you, give you a bit of inspiration, I hope, to plan your adventures. If you want to see that Patagonia film that myself and Blake talk about an awful lot, because it was so good, click over there for that one. And if you want to see Chris Opie's level 100 challenge, over there for that one. Give us a thumbs up if you're liking Adventure Week, and don't forget to subscribe.